This is a quick demo of the GURPS rule set prototype for Foundry. The design philosophy of this rule set is that you create and maintain your characters in an external program like GURPS Character Sheet or GCA and play in Foundry. One major advantage is it uses the wonderful GCS layout. When I asked Rich Wilkes, the creator of GCS, for his permission to use his HTML, the first line of his response email was, "Absolutely." Now, caveats, I'm using the Fantasy Grounds output template. I plan to create a new one for GCS. The Fantasy Grounds one isn't complete set. However, it can currently be created by GCA, so GCA could import into this. There's no equipment, no DR information, no lifting information. This is a prototype. And I am by no means an HTML CSS expert. Actually, I barely get by. This would not have looked near as nice without Rich's wonderful work. Case in point, the modifier button bucket does not display. So here you can see one of my characters, Bog, and you'll notice that certain things are highlighted in yellow. And if you mouse over those things, you can roll them. So I'll move to the chat window and we will roll against his strength. You'll notice I have the Dice So Nice module added. I just like the way it looks. And you can see Bog's roll and success. So you can roll anything highlighted in yellow that becomes a button. So in this case, we'll roll against his dodge, his attack. We'll even roll damage and skills. You notice the chat discussion is slightly different for each type of roll. Now, you'll also notice that some things are highlighted in orange. These buttons are highlighted in orange, and these are modifiers. When you play GURPS manually, you normally calculate all the pluses and minuses to your roll, and then you make the roll. The same thing occurs here. In this particular case, let's say Bog is going to try to chop somebody's head off, so he's attacking their neck. So we would add a -5 modifier. Now, that is supposed to show up down here. And if the user hovers over this red square, it would show a list of all modifiers that will be applied. I'd like to add at some point when the user clicks this button that a window would open up and it would have a slew of different modifiers they could add to their system or to their roll. So in this case, he's attacking the neck, so I will swing. And you can see that the modifier was applied, and in this case, he hit. Now, one of GURPS' greatest strengths is its greatest weakness when it comes to automation. So it's just so configurable, you can't get everything automated. So I created something I call the on-the-fly rolling system that overcomes a lot of this configurability issues. If you look at, say, high pain threshold, the text has been converted into a button. So texts of certain formats will change into a button that can be rolled. In this case, HT+3. Modifiers also can be applied. In the case of combat reflexes, the +1 to all active defense rolls has already been applied by GCS, so we don't need to add that. But this +6 to IQ rolls doesn't exist anywhere, so we'll add that as a modifier and then a roll against his IQ to see if he can wake up, and sure enough, he wakes up. Now, the global modifier can have many things stacked on it, and I'll show you example, although these examples don't make any sense. So I'll add a -2, and I'll add a +6, and I'll add a +3, and I'll add a -5, and then I'll roll against his strength. And you will see in the chat message here that all of these modifiers were applied and that he succeeded. Now, the real power of this on-the-fly rolling system is for, say, characters that use a powers as magic system, like sorcery or divine favor, where all of the spells are actually defined as advantages and don't have rolls themselves. So I will show you one of those characters. So I'm going to create a new actor, And you can give it any name you want because it will get overwritten by the import. And I will import my character Luna, which is based out of a Hogwarts style magic system. And if we can see down here in the advantages that the various roles are embedded as buttons. In this particular case, perception +1. So here's the formats that this on-the-fly system supports. You can roll attributes, plus or minus. You can even add a little descriptive text to help you and other users see what you're rolling against. You can roll a self-control roll. Oddly enough, this was actually originally already created by GCS. And I just adapted that textual format to turn it into a button, and then decided to add even more support. You can roll just a number, and for example, on Bog, he has first aid, which is 1d -3 healing, and the exclamation point at the end means a minimum of 1. So you could see here, you rolled a 1. So it's still 1 point of healing. You can add damage. You can also roll against skills. In the case of Luna, she has a lock-picking skill, a lock-picking spell, that is. And so right here, she can click on this, and this will roll her lock-picking, which she failed. You can just embed a straight roll against an imaginary attribute. Luna has a binding spell, Impedimentia, which does a quick contest of strength 25 versus the target strength. So she can just click that, and it will roll and give you the result. And finally, if you have the PD Foundry module installed and you set it up for your various PDFs, then all the page references will work. So you click the page reference, and there you go. You can show this to your clients, and they don't have to have the PDFs themselves. All right, let me close that. And so for the future work, I don't have equipment added in. It may be easier to actually add the equipment in GCS and then re-import. You can always re-import over the top of your character, and it will save it'll be the same actor, so you'll have all of the same tokens and everything. If we added the import here into the Foundry rule set, then applying the various combat modifiers and things like that would have to be programmed in, and that might be rather difficult. I want to build a complete import. Currently I'm using the Fantasy Grounds import, but it's a subset of the full set of data. I'd like to support multiple character sheets, the old school character sheet, and possibly one that's focused on combat only, although Foundry's ability to collapse a character sheet down to a title bar makes it pretty easy to figure out what you want to do and then hide it and play with the map. I haven't looked at all at the combat tracker to see if there's any things we can add into that. I haven't looked into the integration of the status system or the possible integration of the active effects library. However, if we're going to start automating the system, we have to be mindful of the rules set forth by the Steve Jackson Games. So thank you for watching, and please leave any comments below.